Okay, so hello and welcome everyone. Here we are to the day two of the DP900 bootcamp. I am Chanchal Vansal, Microsoft AZ lead for the Gwalior region, and today we have Nandita Gaur with us, who is working professional in Microsoft. She will gonna take over the whole session and tell you the relational and non-relational data in the data platform. So, without moving any further delay, I would like to ask Nandita to introduce herself, and then we can go forward with the session. Over to you, Nandita.
Thanks, Chanchal. So, hi everyone, and welcome to the session. My name is Andita Gaur. I am working as support engineer in Dynamics 365, and I am based in Hyderabad. I graduated last year from AVS Engineering College, and so yeah, that's all about me.
Perfect. We can continue with the session. Like you can share the screen if you want to, and yeah, just like take out the full
Okay,
session. And I will look into the live chat box. The people who will be having the doubts, I will be uh, convey the questions to you, and then you can answer them.
sure. Okay, so let me share my screen. Can you see my screen?
Oops, it's not visible now. Matlab, I don't. Can you retry it? Uh, it's visible now.
Okay, can you see my slides?
Yes, I can see your slides. It's
Okay,
presentable now.
okay. So, hi, welcome everyone to this session. Today, we are going to discuss about the exam DP900, that is Microsoft Azure Data Fundamentals. And I have already told about me. I am Nandita Gaur. I am working at Microsoft as Dynamics 365 support engineer. So let's move with the topics. So to clear the DP900 exam, these are the core topics that you should prepare about. So first one is core data concepts. Second one is non-relational data in Azure. Third one is relational data in Azure, and you should also know about data analytics in Azure. So today I'm going to cover about the non-relational data, how it is stored, how it is handled. So let's move. So the first topic we are going to cover is exploring Azure storage for non-relational data. Like what are the storage options where you can store non-relational data in Microsoft Cloud. So, as you know that most of the application don't just rely on the rigid structure of relational database. Like all the data in the world, it is not limited to just sequential data, just in a that is present in a defined format. Most kind of data is some columns might be empty, some columns might not be confined to just textual or simple number-based format. The image, the videos, these data is kind of a huge in today's industries. So the storages that store this kind of data that is not present in a rigid structure, it is called as NoSQL storage. So let's explore some options of NoSQL storaging options. So the first one is Azure Blob Storage. So in the Blob storage, the data is stored as binary objects, and this binary objects is it is called as blobs. So blob is kind of a container that could store binary objects for you, and this binary object is called as Bob. And since this blob is stored somewhere, and if your front end or back end it kind of want to communicate with the blob, so we can communicate simply using some APIs. to perform read write, anything we can do using APIs. So blob contains. Uh, Let me explain it in a better way. So there are containers, and these stores blobs in them. So there is a blob, and it is present in some kind of containers. Containers could store many kind of blobs, and we can also store blobs in kind of virtual folders, and these folders are totally virtual in the sense that you cannot perform any folder related options like if you do it in your computer, you could perform access storage rights, copying rights, things like that. But in blobs, this is just kind of a namespace. It is just a way to organize your related blobs using the symbol slash. So if you put the slash in some kind of before a blob's name, it means that it is related to some other blob logically and not physically. There are basically three tires for storing blobs. First one is hot tire, second is cool tire, and third one is archive tire. So hot tire, you store the data that is most frequently being used. There are continuous read and write operations going on. So the active use data is stored in hot tire. Cool tire is a data that is not very frequently used. Like sometimes it could be used, but not very much frequently. And archive tire is data that is that supports no input into them, but we can just view them. That too on a request basis. So the latency of all these tires depends also. The hot tire, this is the most expensive kind of tire, and latency, that is the time required to input and output, that is very much low. Second one is cool tire. To store data in a cool tire, there is a little kind of latency, but the availability of data, that is also like few minutes. But in archive tire, you need to submit a request to view your data, and that would be available after a long time. There is also a policy called as rehydration. Rehydration means once the data is considered to be an archive tire data, you, if you want to use it again, then you need to do a rehydration to convert it into hot or cool tire as per your choice. The data is convertible. You can convert a hot tire data to cool, and cool tire to archive tire, and vice versa. Cool to hot, it is everything is considerable. And in the life cycle management policies, we define the time. For example, for how much time one data should be considered hot, the companies which are using Azure Blob Storage, they can put the time range. For example, after 2 months, you can convert our cool data to archive tire. So you can set up these kind of policies for the cost saving and for availability. As you know that hot tire is the expensive one. So if your data is not being touched, and let's say there is no input or output operation for like about a month, you can set up these policies to convert your data into archive tire. So this was all about blob storage. Now we are going to study about what types of blobs are there. So first one is blob. In blob, the data is stored as a set of blocks. One block could be 100 MBs, and one blob could contain 50,000 blocks. So that means in a blob, you can store 4.7 terabytes of data, and there is less changing in large discrete objects. Blob is considered if the objects are large and discretely stored, and they are less changing. That means there is not frequent input outputs, and the object is very large, so you can consider a blob. uh, there is another page blob. It is more suitable for the random read and write operations. So there are a fixed 512 bytes of pages. One page is 512 bytes, and total you could store 8 terabytes of page blob data. So this kind of blob is used when you implement virtual disk for virtual machines. And the third one is append blob. As the name suggests, if you was just want to add something at the end of your data, so you should go for append blob. And in the append blob, it is also a set of blocks, and one block size is 4 MBs. And in total, you can store 195 GBs of data. So if I talk from the exam perspective point of view, so these figures you should learn about them, and you should consider learning all about hot tire, cool tire, and archive tires, and uh, define the blobs in a better way. Okay, so let's move toward the second storage option of NoSQL data. This is Azure Data Lake Storage Gen 2. There was first Gen 1 increased, but now the Gen 2 has been introduced. So, how Data Lake is different than Blob? It is a kind of a blob storage, plus you get many advantages also. Uh, Apart from blob storage, it has hierarchical file system capabilities. Do you remember in the blob storage, they were just virtual folders? There were no actual file system, but in data lake, you can get a hierarchical file system capabilities. And by that, I mean that you can organize folders into folders and set access rights, everything you do in a regular file system. Also, you have a cost control of storage tiers. If you remember in the blog, there were specific three kind of storages, but here you have better control of your cost of organization. And third one is major analytics systems of Azure Data Lake Store. Analytics system is the advantage over blog here. You can do analytics over using any of Azure feature or anything of based on your organization. So, if you want to use data lake storage, you should enable hierarchical namespaces options whenever you create an Azure storage account. So, but okay, we'll look how to do this in the coming lab. I'll be taking a lab as well. And but You should be very careful if you enable the hierarchical namespace option, because once you do it, you cannot go back. It's done. You can't revert it. So Azure Data Lake, let's see where it is used. It is a mounted distributed system. You can mount it as a distributed system over most of the Azure services. For example, Hadoop in Azure HD Insight, or on the Azure Databricks, or on the Azure Synapse Analytics. So you can use analytics services, for example, Azure Synapse, or you could do a Hadoop based system. And basically, data lake is used to process high volumes of data, and this is most commonly used in industry for where the data is large. Okay, so this was the second option for storing NoSQL data. Let's move towards the third option. So the third option is Azure Files. So it is like of a cloud-based network share like LAN. So let me explain this point in a detail. You must have used in local area networks. For example, there is a local system in the computer labs in colleges or school. The files are internally connected. Means if I am working locally on my machine, and if I want to share with some people three decks away from me, so local network share could allow me to do that. Like I'm working, just save it, and then the person sitting across me can view it on their computer. So that was a local storage or file share, local area file share. But in the Azure files, it is a cloud-based network file share. Means you can just work on your computer and then just save it, and some person that is located very far away from you, a different region, they can view the file and perform file sharing options. So basically, Azure Files, it is a cloud-based network which facilitates the file sharing. Uh, the advantages of using Azure Files is that you have less hardware cost and less maintenance overhead. If you are using your regular hardware, like you need to have three systems. If you want to set up this file sharing system on your local labs or anything like that organization, so you then need to put up some maintenance people to do that, and some extra hardware, some storage disk to do that. But in Azure File, your hardware cost will be minimalized and your maintenance would also be minimalized, because Microsoft handles all the maintenance. It is their responsibility. And the second advantage of Azure Files is that it is highly available, and it is a very scalable storage. By highly available, I means that there is kind of a service level agreement. For example, there are seen where I've seen that 99.9% availability, and you just need to click and the data will be instantly available. And it is also scalable means that, for example, if you have uh, uh, subscribed for, let's say, 5 terabytes of data, and in the coming times your organization needs to scale up their demands, so it is easily doable. And there are also scenes where where you want to downscale your data, so that is also doable. So the scalability, availability, and less hardware cost, these are the most used advantage of Azure files. Yeah. So you get 100 terabytes of data per account. For example, if you're having one storage account and you want to use Azure files, so maximum of 100 terabyte of data will be allowed to you. And 1 terabyte, uh, one file could be of maximum 1 terabyte. So 1 terabyte is kind of a lot of amount of data for a single file that is allowable in Azure files. And but there is a quota on share. You can have 2000 concurrent shares at a time at particular instance. By this I mean that, for example, there are n number of people in an organization and they want to do the concurrent sharing. So at a single point of instance, you can only 2000 people can do that. But and there is a quota on share means your organization can set a quota. Like, for example, we want only 5 people to do concurrent sharing, and you can set up. The cost depends. It is the sole intent of this purpose is to is the cost efficiency. So let's look the performance tiers of Azure files. So basically there are two tiers. First one is standard tier, second is premium tier. In standard tier, the data is stored in hard disk in Azure cloud, and in premium tier, the data is stored in SSDs. So as you know that in our laptops also, if we go and buy SSD kind of laptop, it is slightly expensive. So similarly, in Azure files, if you want your data to be stored in premium tier, so it will be a costly one. And since Azure Files, it is a kind of simple file sharing system, so there are file sharing protocols too. Basically, there are two protocols. The first one is server message block. It is across any operating system. For example, if you want to share data from Windows to Linux or Windows to OS or some kind of that, so you use server message block sharing file sharing protocols. There is also second kind of protocol, network file system. It is available only on Linux and Mac OS. And but there are two further constraint to that. The first one is that the data will be stored in premium tier storage. You cannot choose standard tier if you are going for network file share system. And you need a VPN to access the data. So these are two things about file sharing protocols. So that was all about Azure files. We have till now we have studied about three methods in which you can store your NoSQL data. Let's move toward fourth. So the fourth one is Azure Tables. This is a very interesting one. It is used to store semi-structured data. By semi-structured, I means that you can just let few columns be empty. There could be a mix and match of data types. So Azure Table, it is basically used for semi-structured kind of data. Here, all row have unique key, and by unique I mean that a unique key is formed by a partition plus row key. So every row has a partition key as well as row key, and these two keys both combine to form a unique key. So there is also a timestamp column. It stores the data whenever you modify any data in Azure table. So a timestamp column is automatically created. This column is not empty. It is formed of date and time whenever you are modifying data. So that time and date is merged and a timestamp column is created with each record. So this column is not empty. Otherwise, you can choose to keep any of the column empty. And there is no foreign key concept in Azure table. You need to define no relationships, no views are necessary. The foreign key relationship with views, these are the standard properties of structured data. So in Azure table you don't need to define that. Also, the data is denormalized in Azure table. By denormalized data I mean uh, the data could be redundant. Basically, the normalization is done to reduce the redundancies. But here you can have the copies of data, and if I were to normalize any feature, for example, if I live in two houses, I have two addresses, so my name would be there, and against that, only two columns of name would be there. But if I want to denormalize that, I can have separate record for my one house, separate record for my second house. So there is a concept called as partitioning with Azure tables. So concept of partitioning is that you are grouping related rows together. So for example, the record is containing, let's take example of any record, an organization which is having sales of, let's say, five products. So if I were to store five product details, so I can group those tables. I can create a partition where I'm storing details of first product. I'm creating second partition where I'm storing details of second product, and so on. So we can do partition in Azure tables. So why do we do partitioning? It is used to fast access the data. By fast access, I mean whenever you search for data, for example, if I want to look for any data that is related to my first product, so I type the name of first product, and the all the records associated to that partition are shown. So partitioning helps in creating the fast access of data. Second is that the partitioning is scalable. So it means that you don't need to have. Let me explain all these 3 points in one. So partitioning is scalable, independent, and infinite. So whenever you create a partition, by scalable it means that you can add any number of rows you want to. You can add one row, two row, three row, X, Y, Z, any type of row, and these partitions are completely independent of each other. For example, there are two partition for product one and product two. So product one can have five partition, product two can have 10 partitions, and these partition could be totally independent of each other. But they are still stored in a single table. And if you were to if you were using the SQL, these you could still create partitions, but the data should be logically related to each other, as there are relationships. And if in any column there is only textual data, and the second row, they should make sense, some kind of sense. But the data here is independent. You can store data as you want. So there are two elements of Azure tables. First one is partition key, second is row key. So whenever the data is stored in kind of a key and value kind of format. So for partition there is a key, and rest associated is the data of for a partition can have n number of rows. So for that, partition key is uh, a record that is used to search partition, and value is all the rows. And for a single row there is a row key that makes a row searchable, and the rest data is whatever we store in that row. We use two kind of queries. The first one is point query and the second one is range query. So point query is used to identify a single row. For example, I would use point query to identify a single partition. For example, I want to look for a partition that fetches a partition is unique, right? Partition is for first product, product one, product two, product three. So if I enter product one, so I'm using a point query that is identifying a specific row. But when I'm searching like product one and 10 rows are coming along with that, so here I'm using a range query to fetch contiguous blocks. So range query is used to fetch all the rows, and point query is used to fetch all the partitions. So these four are the methods where we store NoSQL data in Azure. These are four storing methods. So if you have any doubts, you can drop the question. Let's wait for any doubts if you have. Chanchal, do we have any doubts?
Yeah, the first question is like, someone is asking for the hands-on, like rather than this theoretical part.
Okay. Yeah, next is the exercise. I'm going to teach you about that. Do we have any more questions apart from that?
Yeah, so one more question is that do I need to create the tables?
Yeah, you create a storage account and then you create tables to store all these data. Okay, I think this would be a good time to move towards exercises.
Yep.
So if you want to do a practice and you don't have any Azure subscription, you can just go to Microsoft Docs and you can activate a sandbox just like that, and then log into that account in which you are signed in Microsoft Portal. And after that, okay, let me tell you how it is done. You just click on Activate Sandbox in Microsoft Docs. This is kind of a free subscription where you can just try things and don't worry about deleting the subscription. It is automatically deleted. Yeah. So the sandbox is activated for 3 hours, 4 hours. So first step is going to Azure portal and signing in with your account. Then we go to create a resource. So first we are going to try uh, storage. Okay. So you go to, let me repeat it again. Go to Azure, then click on create a resource, and then search storage. So first we are going to create a storage account. There are many type of resources like Azure Blob storage, Data Lake storage Gen 1. We studied about Gen 2, right? So let's create a storage account. Um, Search for storage and click on create. So to create a storage account, firstly you need to select a subscription. If you are using Sandbox, you're going to see a Conceit subscription. But this is my Microsoft account, so I don't have Conceit subscription here. But just to check, yeah, okay, I don't have Conceit. You can click Conceit to select a resource group. You can either select an existing item if you have something in your Conceit, but most probably or you don't have anything in Conceit subscription. So click on create new, and you can give any name to your resource group, anything which is not already present in your Azure account. So let's say test account. I don't have currently permissions to do that in my Microsoft account, but you can just click on a resource group. So resource group, it is kind of a logical container that creates related resources in them. Next step is giving your storage account a name. Anything you want to do, that is totally up to you. This is a required field. Region, you could select any region. So these are the regions. But personally, if you ask me, I prefer the region that is closest to me. So I'm in India. I would go for India West or anything like that. So I am using the nearest region because of the latency. Although Microsoft guarantees the highest latency, even if I select the farthest region possible, but still I prefer. So here are the two types of account, standard and premium. If you again remember, it is for HDDs and premium is for uh, SSDs. And redundancy, there are four types of redundancies. So you can study more about them, but that is not related to AZ 900 exam, but still knowledge is not harmful. So you can use locally redundant. It means that the server, the data center in which your data is being stored, the copy will be made in that data center only. Geo redundant, means if you are using India, then copy will be made in India. Zone redundant, the Azure is divided into various kind of zones. Like there could be US zone, there could be Asia zone, there could be APAC zone, EMEA zone. So the data is one copy of data is created in another zone for God forbid some mishappening occurs, data center, uh, anything with data center, so then still your data is safe. So I'm going to locally redundant because my data is not that much important right now. So you can go for locally redundant. You can just review and create, but let's explore all the other options also. So in security, uh, here are the options where you select, do you require secure transfer for REST API operations? So there is a database and you do want to consume it. So you enable it if you want REST APIs to perform operations into your database. Second is enable blob public access. So you select this data, you select this option when you want your data to be publicly available. By publicly available, I means a resource key will be created, which on which any particular person could perform input output. It is basically for public facing websites. Second, this option is enable storage account key access. So you can just leave it as it is, nothing special. Default to Azure Active Directory authorization in the Azure portal. So if you want to link Azure Active Directory, you want to perform some kind of authorization to your database, and you want to link Azure AD with that, you can select this option. You can leave it as it is. So here was a data lake store Gen 2 option where you enable the hierarchical namespace. So just be sure to select this option because once it is done, it is done. You have to either raise a support request, but most probably it is not reversible process. So if you want to enable hierarchical namespace in your data, means perform all the folder related operations, you should select this option. For blob storage, you have an option to select hot and cool tier. You do not select archive tier because the cool data is converted into archive. So you can select the access tier. Hot if the data is very frequently used, like day to day, and cool if the data is infrequently used, like once in a month or something like that. Here is Azure Files operation. Uh, if you want to enable large file share, remember we had an option to set quotas if you want or if for example, I have an organization and I don't want them to share large data so that network traffic could be reduced. So if you want to do that, you should select that. If I want them to use large file shares, you have enough resources to cope with the latency or network traffic, so you should click that. So these were the four options that we explored: Blob, files, data lake, and what was third one? Tables. Tables is not there. Once you create the storage account, we get an option to create tables. Second is networking. Uh, I would personally suggest you to leave as it is, but for the exam purposes, you should study about all these points because these could be asked in exams. The DP 900 exam. You have network routing preferences if you want to use Microsoft internal network routing, or if you want to use your internet routing, you can do however you like. Second is data protection. Yeah, this point is kind of important. So this is enable soft delete for blobs. If you click on this option, soft delete means if once you delete, that is not permanently deleted. It is present in it. It's like a recycle bin. So if this option is enabled, it goes to a recycle bin where you can revoke your data. If this option is enabled, you have an option to select the number of days to retain deleted blobs. For example, you can retain a blob for 10 days, 5 days, depends. I personally don't like to do this because once it is deleted, it is deleted. It could be price, there could be price associated to that, that's why. For example, okay, no example here. I just gave an example of recycle bins. The soft delete is also present for containers and file shares. Similarly, if you delete any container, you want it to go into recycle bin, then enable soft delete. If you want the system to just if delete delete permanent delete, so you should not enable this option. You can do versioning for blobs, just like GitHub. Enable blob change feed. This is dependent on organization. If you want to enable version level immutability, that is for access control. Still, encryption, I would again suggest that keep it as it is. If you want to learn more about it, then you are of course welcome to. Tags, this is for searching or some kind of internal logic. If I want to, let's say, add a tag personal or ABC or anything, you can add tags. That is just to internal logic kind of thing. And then we go to review and create, but here validation is failed because most of my basics are not, because I have not selected uh, correct subscription. But you can just click here and go and review and create. Your storage account will be created if you click on create, and here you will get a notification that your storage account has been created. And after that you could go to containers and try creating tables, containers, all these kind of thing here in the exercise link. Okay, just let me paste that. You should really try this hands on. Here you can see Azure storage account. You can just try exploring how Blob works, how Data Lake works. You should try that. I highly recommend that for the exam purposes. Okay, so I think these four methods should be clear by now. If you have any questions, you should let me know. Do I need to delete the resource in sandbox? No, you don't need to delete. Once you complete this module, after 4 hours, the resources are automatically deleted, as it is not associated to any particular subscription. Like even if you don't need, Concierge subscription is paying it for you. So Concierge subscription is just Microsoft subscription. Do zones affect the storage? No, I don't think so. What do you mean by zones affect storage?
I think the person is asking that selecting the different zones will affect the storage conditions or something like that. What is going to be the effect of selecting different zones?
Okay, so I personally think that zone Microsoft has some service level agreement. Like they say that uh, irrespective of region you want to store the data, it will still be highly available for you. But that is my personal choice to store in the region that I am located to. You might have listened to something like European Union going on, where the Europe customers they want to store data in their region only. So that is for them. For example, let's say government is also using Microsoft the thing. The government of US want to store their data in US. They don't want to. They don't want data to be stored in Europe. They don't want their data to come to India. Although it is secure, but still, if they want to do that, so Microsoft is offering flexibility. You can choose any location you want. It does not affect. If I were to answer the question in brief, it does not affect, but it is for your data privacy or anything you like. I think these are the only questions. So let's move forward. Okay, now so I hope that topic one is clear. You have understood about all the four type of non-relational data storage options in Azure: blob storage, table storage, data lake, as well as file. And if you have any queries, I would suggest the Microsoft Docs link. It is more than enough. And once you do hands-on, you will remember it for life. Okay, so now next topic is fundamentals of Azure Cosmos DB. So, what is Cosmos DB? So, it is a cloud database service for NoSQL. Up till now, we were studying about the containers, like how you can store data. But now, what is the actual database that is being stored into? For example, let's say you have some raw data and you want to carry it to a college or whatever. uh, so there is a form, you fill that form, like you enter that data and keep it in a file folder, like a hard folder. So that folder was the storage options, like container where you store your data. And now we are going to study about that form or a piece of paper which is storing your actual data. So the Cosmos DB is the cloud database service for NoSQL. And let's take some advantages of Cosmos DB. First one is indexing and partitioning. So the Cosmos DB uses the concept of indexing as well as partitioning for fast read and write operations. And you can enable multi-region writes and local replica. By this point, I mean that uh, 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 let's say any developer is using, there could be multiple developers in an industry, right? And their databases, there is a local replica in their computer of the database, so that developer can perform any kind of region, any kind of writes or anything like that. And second developer is located in France, let's say, and they are doing anything in their local replica. So everything would be synced to a cloud database service, Azure Cosmos DB. So you don't have to worry about how to upload my data on cloud, how to do that. Just keep working in your local replica. It will automatically be synced. There is also a feature of automatic indexing that is a very helpful feature. Indexing, you might have studied that in colleges. And the partition is stored. One partition could be maximum of 10 GBs. So let's see where the Cosmos DB is used in industry. Actually, these points are important because a lot of paper is made based on these points. So I suggest you to learn theory as well as practicals. So applications is kind of important in Cosmos DB. First application is IoT and telematics. So you know that IoT gives a real time data. There is a lot of data that is generated from IoT devices. So if you use Cosmos DB, you will get a option to do real time processing. The live data, you can do analytics on a live data. That is like a huge thing. You can also use Cosmos DB for retail and marketing industries, because these industries have catalogs. You need to store catalogs, have pictures, right? Video, picture, or any kind of binary file. You want to do that. You want to store it. So Cosmos DB is preferred in that. Gaming, Cosmos DB is used in gaming. You know that gaming consists of scoreboard that are rapidly changing, and there is a lot of graphics being processed. Graphical data is being stored for scoreboards. So Cosmos DB is preferred in that. And there are a lot of web as well as mobile apps where you can use Cosmos DB. Social media is one example. All kind of data like images, music, and videos. So if you want to store that kind of data, Cosmos DB is preferred. So Microsoft itself uses Cosmos DB M365, that is Microsoft 365. This service use Cosmos DB. Azure is built on Cosmos DB. Skype, Xbox. So these all are using Cosmos DB. So how to use a Cosmos DB? Uh, as you know that you can use APIs. Cosmos DB is not providing you a standard API. You can use API that you previously know. So you must be knowing out of these five APIs, any one API you must be knowing if you are a developer. You can use core SQL based API to perform read and write operation is Cosmos DB. You can use MongoDB. You can use either table API, and that means everything is stored in form of tables, standard tables. You can use Cassandra. You can use Gremlin API. In Gremlin, I think use vertices, nodes, these kind of things. So you can use any of these. For the exam perspective, I would suggest you to read more about these APIs, because there could be questions like where the vertices kind of thing is used in to do a perform API based operations. So you must be able to answer that it is done in Gremlin. What do we do in MongoDB? How could you consume Cosmos DB from MongoDB? So there could be operations like this. Natively, Cosmos DB is built on JSON. Everything is done in kind of a JSON format. Okay, so there's one exercise where you can explore the Cosmos DB. Similarly, you can create sandboxes here. Let me drop that so you can practice. My screen is still shared, right?
Yeah, yeah, your screen is shared.
Okay. My both screen are shared or just one? Okay.
Actually, only the screen you are able to see is shared. Now
Okay, I
your
can
Azure
see
portal
one
is
screen.
visible.
Okay, okay, right. Okay, so how you can create a Cosmos DB account? Uh, you can just like we search for Azure storage. You need to search for create a resource, or you can either directly click. Just go this way, create a resource. So this is Azure Marketplace. You can see everything related to containers, databases. You can either just go for databases, but I prefer searching Cosmos DB. So this is Azure Cosmos DB. We click on create. You can select any. These five are the options. I strongly recommend you to learn more about these APIs, how they are done. But let's go with the recommended one, Core SQL. Let's go the Core SQL way. Here also, since I'm using Microsoft account, I don't have any active subscription that I can share it with you. But you'll have an option to see the conceit subscription. Click on conceit, select or create any new resource group. You can use the previous one if it is still available, but create new, it will anyways be deleted. Account name, you can enter any account name. Location, I still prefer the location that is near to me, that is Central India. uh, you can capacity mode, you can just keep it that way. Provision throughput, we don't want to go serverless. With Azure Cosmos DB free tier you will get 1000 RUs and 25 GB storage for free, or you get 25 GB storage free. You can enable free tier. One account per subscription, estimate $64 per month, discount per account. Okay, you want to either apply to, let's apply. Who doesn't want to get? Okay, limit total account throughput. Selected. We don't want to limit. Just we can either search for all these or we can just review and create. But I cannot create because my subscription is not selected. But okay, let's do it. I have one more account. Oops. Sorry, this account is not usable right now. But there is nothing more in that. To be honest, I must say, you can just try creating any sample database. You can just try creating items of NoSQL there. But I think this is how you create an Azure Cosmos DB account, and you should really study about all these five options. These all the APIs. And yeah, these were the references of my slides today. That is the public Microsoft docs, this data fundamentals of non-relational data, and these are the two learning modules. You can complete them. And so thank you so much for listening to me today. And here is my LinkedIn account. If you want to get connected to me, ask me anything further. So yeah, thank you everyone. So let's take questions if any. We are I think 5 minutes remaining.
And we have a question: moving to Azure cloud, is it recommended to use Cosmos DB instead of native MongoDB?
Yeah, personally I would recommend that, but I don't know if MongoDB is there or not. Okay, so if you after you search for Cosmos DB, you are asking, do you want to select the MongoDB account?
No, I
Okay,
think
let me reframe my
he's
question. So if you are a MongoDB developer, so you should just search for Azure Cosmos DB, and there is API for MongoDB. You can use that. For example, if your organization is using MongoDB already, and if you want to migrate to Cosmos DB, so there is a kind of a compatibility. But I'm not sure if MongoDBs could be created in Azure. Uh, See, that is not there. This is not a service. There's you can create a MongoDB server, but I don't see it here. You have to create a Cosmos DB and then you can use MongoDB API if you are familiar, if you are already a developer of MongoDB. Uh, do we have any more questions? See here, you should study about these APIs. For example, you might be using this kind of script for MongoDB but in the backend, as the Cosmos DB is using JSON. It is based on JSON. So if you use MongoDB API, it will be converted to JSON, corresponding JSON format. You can try it out. I hope it answers the question. For searching, I believe Elasticsearch is still a win in compared to Cosmos. I'm not sure.
So we have one more question. Milan is asking for searching. I believe Elasticsearch is still a win in compared to Cosmos.
What is fast read or write in Cosmos DB? I think both are faster, but read should be faster. If we logically think about it. You don't need to worry about the performance because Azure it offers you performance of with service level agreement of around 99%. You could, if you are using that for organization, I can say that on confidence that most of the organizations are using Azure because it is trustable, because it is having high availability. If you are using if you're making projects for open like for colleges, or if you're using uh, open source database that are freely available, so yeah, they are offering kind of thing, but being scalable could be a challenge.
So I think there are no more doubts from our audience side. So let's wrap up with the session. Thank you very much, ma'am, for coming here and taking out time and spending time on Saturday evening with all of us and delivering such a knowledgeable and precious session. And thank you everyone for being such a lovely audience.
Hello.
So, so till next time, let's see. Stay safe and happy learning. And we also have a quiz. So you all guys can join our Discord server where we are going to have a quiz and winners are going to get swags from Microsoft. So everyone, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.